Now, Georgia was going to be in the SEC title game one way or another. This is not a conference game against Georgia Tech. It's a rivalry game. They are now going to square off against Texas. This was the play-in game that everybody had circled in advance of rivalry week. It was the newest chapter of the Texas A&M rivalry. They hadn't played since 2011, something like that. It's been a minute. There's some bad blood over losing that rivalry for whatever reason. Texas ends up winning by a 17-7 score. 243 rushing yards for the Texas Longhorns, Dan. That was sort of its own story. I think the primary story here, and one that will continue to be a theme now for as long as Texas remains active in the postseason, is defense.
Yeah.
What Texas did on defense was really something special against Texas A&M. This is not a perfect Texas A&M offense by any stretch.
No.
The Longhorns made Texas A&M look pedestrian whenever they had the football. And Lord knows they had opportunities. They had opportunities to get back in this game. I'm thinking of a drive later in the game after, I think, a turnover or a block kick where they had an opportunity down inside the red zone, inside goal to go scenario, decide to go for it on fourth down, just can't get any push against this Texas front. Now, talk about play calling, that's a separate conversation as well, but the fact that the Texas defense throughout the course of this game kept rising to the occasion, only gave 7 points on the road, mind you, in Kyle Field when everybody there was fired up and jazzed up for this next version of the rivalry. It just speaks volumes about where Texas is at. I don't know how it goes over in SEC circles that this is a newcomer to the SEC.
Right.
And now it seems as if they might be the best team in the conference. Whatever. Yeah. Texas obviously is a fully formed product at this point.
Well, now that they've started beating ranked teams on November 30th. Yeah.
They've started beating ranked teams, but it's clear that they are a much more finished product than some of their peers, let's say, that are in this playoff conversation, which we can have in a second, in the SEC. So good on them. 17-7 is their final.
Yeah, and it was their own mistakes on offense that led to points and at least the slowdown of their own rhythm on offense with, it was a fumble and a pick six in quick succession, right?
That's right.
I like Marcel Reed. I'm entertained by Marcel Reed. I like elements of this Texas A&M offense. I don't believe, as of now, they have the players to play with the best of SEC defenses, which is right now what Texas, I believe, coming into this game, number one defense in terms of points per drive allowed, if you get rid of garbage time, in America. And so you need to bring all conference caliber receivers, running backs, left guards, what have you, to a game like this, to a big emotional game, if you're going to score 20 points, which is what was needed to beat tonight's Texas. And Texas A&M obviously has been beat up at running back. I saw Ruben Owens came back. He's been out all year.
Yeah, it was good to see him.
In terms of a finished product, it's insane to think that in year one, Mike Elko will have a team ready to score 20 points against this kind of defense. Even though it's at home, even though there's the emotion there, the best of them, maybe if this game is simulated 10 times, 100 times, whatever, the big plays are breaking their way sometimes. But Texas is just much closer to a finished product because of the speed and violence of this defense. And especially in that first half, you were seeing Quinn Ewers make some beautiful throws. You know, wasn't all four quarters. Texas A&M did a nice job adjusting and forcing punts, whatever, in the second half, as they've done all year long. But I did come away impressed with the sort of, I forget the term we used last year, the Quinn Ewers, just sort of the flick of the wrist, and it's 38 yards downfield. He had a couple of those, which was cool to see, the reverse touchdown call in the back of the end zone. So Texas more and more is looking like a team through its defense first that can beat anybody in the country if they're, not making a ton of mistakes on offense and they get something downfield at times. This is a very difficult team to get the best of right now.
And especially if they're running.
Yeah.
Especially if they're running the way that they ran tonight. Contravion Wisner, 186 on the ground. He was a revelation. They finished with 240 on the ground and a touchdown. That one touchdown was a nice run earlier in the game from Arch Manning, who came in a goal-to-go scenario, Really nice run around the side, jumped, dove, walked the tight wire along the sideline, dove, hit the pylon, and got the touchdown early on. But if they're running, which has kind of been an ongoing conversation with Texas, given some of their injuries, and having that aspect of their offense work as well is, right, to your point, it makes them much more difficult to defend. This puts Texas now in the SEC title game. Obviously, they're going to be in the playoff in some capacity. It's just a matter of seeding. I think both Georgia and Texas are in.
More Bevo Ugga fun.
More Bevo Ugga fun.
Yeah.
The question, and I think the real intrigue around the playoff at this point then is, well, okay, we figure those two teams are probably going to get in some regard. Joe Tess, Jesse Palmer, a little too aggressive with Georgia's definitely in now. I don't know if we can say that for sure. I think it depends on what the Texas-Georgia game looks like, but I'm willing to concede that Georgia's probably going to find their way into this thing.